Welcome to Big Little Stories. When I first thought about doing this show, I knew I wanted it to be a place to have meaningful, genuine conversations, a chance for people to share their story so that we could learn from each other and become even better versions of ourselves. And I have to say that one of the first people that came to mind when I thought about this project was Carlos Laniax. Carlos is the president and CEO of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Essex, Hudson, and Union counties. And he's also someone that I have been very fortunate to call a friend for many, many years. Carlos, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This is such an honor and just such a pleasure to see this platform emerge out of like such great vision you've had.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, it's funny to me because we have known each other for a long time, and I have heard you speak so many times in such a passionate, authentic, genuine way about your love of the work that you do. And I thought maybe we could start there with just your passion for mentoring and why that means so much to you. And I know that it's personal for you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you for allowing me to start there. Mentors exist in of our lives. It's an organization that Big Brothers Big Sisters is an organization that captures that and offers a professionality, offers a platform to allow us to pay much of this forward that we've all been blessed. But it's really part of a universal truth that we have not, as human beings, at various stages of our life, not just arrived on our own. We've been the recipients of people who have poured into us, who are blood related and non-blood related. We are an accumulation of all of that. So when I took stock of my life and the blessings that I've had, and there have been many twists and turns, my life has not been a linear path in any way, shape, or form. There have been the people that have encouraged me going down the right path, who are not blood related, who took an interest in me. And those people were core to allowing me to be my best self, to find paths that I didn't know existed, and allow me to be who I am today. So when I took stock in that truth and the opportunity emerged to be a professional in this work, who was I to say no to that? And that journey again, in terms of the job, started in 2008, 16 years ago, as CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters for
Wow.
Essex, Hudson, and Union counties. But again, like I said, the journey really started much earlier than that when I was a child. And on the personal front, to make a long story short, I was a kid that kind of gone a number of different ways. My mom was a single parent mother who cleaned houses, who was born in a small room apartment in Ecuador. And she came to this country for the hope and promise that what it could offer her two unborn kids. And my brother and I had the blessing of a lot of the people my mom cleaned houses for who became not just clients of my mom's, but they became those informal mentors. They opened up paths for me to seek out scholarships, to do programs, to ensure that we stayed in a wonderful community, Montclair, New Jersey, wonderful public schools.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it wasn't an inevitable truth that we could stay in a great school district. My mom struggled and worked really hard to keep us there, and there were some clients that allowed us to keep that zip code. That zip code gave us access to schools, that gave us access to opportunities, that gave me access to the foundation that led me off to go to college. And so they
Did
didn't
you
have to
realize
be.
that? Did you realize that at the time, the people that were stepping in to help you, did you realize the impact they were having on your life? Or were you too young maybe to fully
Yeah,
grasp that?
the depth of it, I did not grasp. I mean, I was aware of the power of kindness. I was aware of what they were doing was extraordinary, but the depth of it didn't hit me until, frankly, in these life moments now that I see it every day. I live it every day. And again, this is why I love what we do. It's not a job. It's something that just allows me to be part of a deep well that I draw upon in my life. When I was a kid, I definitely knew it was special though. My junior and senior year of high school, we stayed in the one of my mom's clients' houses to keep us in Montclair, that give me access to the schools that I graduated from. I don't take that lightly. If we didn't have this wonderful family to stay in their house, I wouldn't have been able to stay in the school district that gave me access to so many other resources. So the thing that informs my life is in three areas. One, of course, is the mentorship component. For me, that is so critical. Someone who understands who the other person is, the
Mm,
big or the little, the
right.
mentor, the mentee. You get to, in an individual relationship, you get to see the other person. You get to feel them, understand the things that are obvious but not so obvious.
And see
That's
them
one.
where they're at too, right?
Absolutely.
See them where they're at and see them for what their potential is, which is a really nice combination.
Yeah, and where they
Yeah,
aspire to be and where they could
exactly.
aspire to be.
Yeah.
That's one bucket. The other bucket is, and this is definitely informed by why I take an interest in the broader context, is caring so much about access to education and educational opportunities for our young people. The zip code that I was born into, that my mom was fighting and struggling to keep us in, gave us amplifying access to other things. But not every young person has that kind of wonderful backdrop, and some of our kids need a school that's better fit for them. So I really care deeply about um, improving access points for education for our young people. I think that was such a transformative part of my background and something I knew my mom was fighting really hard to give us access to. And then, of course, the last bucket is supporting the love and affection that people get at home
Mm,
and the family unit. And that, I think that's a critical part as well.
yeah. One of the most powerful things, and I think you, once I start talking about this, you'll know where I'm going. One of the most powerful things that I hear you talk about is the but for. But
Mm,
for someone stepping into another person's life at the right time, life would be totally different. And when you think about that, especially in terms of mentoring, it's such a powerful, powerful idea, that but for. And I know when we've talked about, and I've heard you talk about encouraging people to become mentors, to become bigs, it's that idea of you can be that but for another
mhm.
person. Can you talk to me about but for? I love that idea so much.
My gosh, and the thing is, what's so powerful is we have all had those people who have been at those
Yeah,
inflection points, but we really don't know when that inflection point hits in one's life. It's hard. That's the variable that's
right.
hard to predict. But what we're trying to insert is the constant. The constant is having someone who's caring, loving, and consistent in your life. So when that moment of inflection hits you, you lean on those who have been true to your experience, to your journey, and that's when that but for moment, but for the mentor, but for having the mentee in your life, you a choice might have been very different. A path might have been a left versus a right path, and those mentors, we hear those stories all the time,
Yeah.
and it is the mentor. What I love about mentoring is that it is a sincerely a two-way road, and at any given point, one may be the stronger partner than the other. One may be the one that you lean on over the other, and it could be either way. I will share that there have been moments in my life where there's not been it's not all happy go lucky at all times, and in fact, I've had my dark moments too. One that comes to mind is during the pandemic. It was just kind of really a challenging time where we were all on Zooms, we were all at home, and because you're on Zoom, I was able to project a very confident, stable image to all the people I was working with, interacting with, and it was largely through work. But then my mentee, the person who changed my life, who I met when he was in middle school, he would check in on me, and I was giving him the same kind of like public facing, like things are great, things are fine, tough moment, pandemic is tough, but I was offering an image of being okay. It was really a mask. And he knew me enough to dig further and not let me slide. And he did it in a caring way. He did it in a way that was so persistent, and he was one of the first people I really kind of broke down to in a moment of me needing the mentor, needing the mentee. And so to share that when you really have a sincere, authentic relationship with anyone, non blood related, and I know you and I have shared these moments too, those really core people in your life,
Yeah.
that you can pull out that mask and be honest. And I think this is, although for Big Brothers Big Sisters, the mentor is called the big and the mentee is called the little, the reality is the littles are often big.
Yeah.
They often fill that gap.
Yeah.
They often step in, and those are real amazing life moments. And we see the abundance of our young people do that often. And then, yes, the bigs are also awesome and big and stable and consistent as well. And over time, it becomes just a fluid back and forth. There's not this dynamic if we do it right. And so for me, that's been a bit of my story, why I care so much about this kind of work.
Well, and I think what you're describing too is what happens when you have a real meaningful, authentic connection with someone.
Yeah,
It almost automatically becomes that two-way give and take where you both end up being there for each other.
that's right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Um, you didn't just grow up and decide to take over Big Brothers Big Sisters of Essex Hudson Union. You kind of had like a little bit of like a path there. Can you talk a little bit about what you were going in another direction and then decided that this was your passion that you wanted to follow?
Yeah, for sure. When I was in high school, so I was raised by a single parent mother. She had a wonderful boyfriend for a few years who exposed me to a lot of things, including he was born and raised in the United States. So he introduced us to standard American traditions. For us, Thanksgiving, for my mom, it meant a couple of days off and had no connection to anything else. When she met Steve and he introduced us to some very American things like baseball and what Thanksgiving was and football and again my loving awesome mom from Ecuador was like, why are we cooking turkey? I don't understand. Football for my mom was soccer, not
Yeah.
tossing a football around. So with Steve, he really exposed me to some really the necessary backdrop of what it means to be in this country. I learned early I loved baseball, and that exposure then got me to Steve. The relationship didn't work out. He's still a very important formative figure in my life. I talk about him often, and that exposure to baseball became so deep for me as a young man trying to find my voice. So I started to go to these things called baseball card shows, and I started to be really into that. And in high school, I started my own business that ran these baseball card shows. So I thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I thought this was maybe my path. I thought business was going to be my thing. Again, long story short, I went off to college and I started off on Wall Street. So I was pursuing that private sector path. And it was great. I had mentors there encouraging me to pursue it, opening up doors that I frankly had no access to at all. Someone at my alma mater, Brown University, I was on student government. He was on the board of Brown, and he said, "Have you ever thought of banking?" And I thought he meant to be a teller. My only exposure at that point to banking was going to the bank with my mom, and there's a retail component, like you give money, and I thought that's what he meant. And he said, "No, have you heard of investment banking?" And I had never heard of that before. And he said, "There's a whole other industry out there. I think you should consider this." And so, long story short, he opened up that door for me, and I pursued it. Um, my life completely changed when I met that mentee that I was just referencing, frankly, Aljamir. And I was a volunteer mentor to him in Newark for several years. And on reflection, he was the reason why I changed my life. Those experiences were the reason why I changed my life.
But for
And
him, right? But for him.
but for Aljamir,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have pursued a passion that's been so beautiful
Mm.
that has turned into a career, but much more than that. And I credit him all the time by his name, in his honor. Like he has really, and he's still in my life today. And again, like I said before, the roles reverse. There's so many moments where he lifts me up, and I try to do all I can to be supportive of him and his journey. He's now full on adult living in Florida, doing really well, has children, and I'm blessed to be the godfather of his son. So just there's so much overlapping. It's a real lifelong relationship that we've launched. But for Aljamir, I might have been pursuing a different path in my career.
We have to take a very short break, but when we come back, we'll talk some more. Carlos, I want to talk to you about mentoring and who would make a good mentor and what people need in order to become a mentor for someone else.
I honestly believe everyone has the capacity to become a mentor. I think that's one of these callings that is a universal truth. What we try to do at Big Brothers Big Sisters is professionalize that and offer some structure around that to help um, create a foundation to make it successful. We take two virtual strangers and we pair them up, but through the regularity of our thoughtful curriculum, our programming, our supports, most relationships blossom into much more than that. So for me, the takeaway for what makes a good mentor is I talk about it in the three C's: to be consistent, to be caring, and to be communicative.
Mm.
And I think these three C's then translate into why, as an organization, we've been successful in capturing really anyone to become mentors and training them. But then also our corporate sector is really interested in this kind of stuff because they think it's an important set of tools, the soft skills that ensure that professionals become better professionals in their work environment. So the consistency is an important element in any relationship. And at the beginning of this relationship, the way we foster it is there is a regularity to it, but consistency also doesn't have to be every Monday or every Tuesday. It's just a matter of like understanding what the expectation is for the interaction. Then you loop into the other C about communication, and life happens, right? So sometimes when you have a typical meeting schedule and then vacation or a work demand or something, life happens, but can you respect the other side, the mentor, the mentee, to communicate effectively, to have them understand, this week is going to be a little different, or this season in my life is a little different. I'm having a child. I'm thinking that something's going to go on that I may take a step back. So it really allows us through this mentoring experience to flex those communication skills that if they're undergirded by the idea of caring, then all boats rise. So these three C's for me are what make a good mentor, make mentoring relationship work. And frankly, all of us have the capacity to it, but like it's any like muscle, you have to flex them. You have to work them out to ensure that they're strong in throughout your life.
And you mentioned soft skills, and you and I have had this conversation before, but a lot of times the soft skills that we have in life become the most important skills that we have, and really do lead to what truly is success in life.
Absolutely. I tell our students all the time, my testimony is driven by two things: who you know and what you know. So what you know is really important. We want our kids to pursue degrees, to pursue that knowledge for knowledge's sake, but then also pick up those pieces of paper, those certificates, those mile markers that help you gain access to opportunities. And that's what we implore our young people to do. So knowledge attainment is really important, to stay hungry for that, intellectually curious around that. But then who you know is really important too, and that's that soft skill side of things, your network, and to formalize that and to keep that. To keep that going, to invest in it. And as much as you invest in it, it will invest in you. And that's where the abundance of my life has blossomed, where there's so many people, in this country, in the United States, I have just a handful of blood related relatives. But in the United States, I consider myself having a wonderful, beautiful, like bountiful family. And it's just a lot of people that just have come into my life. And I, similarly with what we've talked about throughout the years, you invest in them, they invest in you. And that to me is helping us redefine what family is. It doesn't necessarily mean biology or blood related. It can be anything you make it to be. And that's a little bit on you and on the other person. And so who you know and what you know are the two main drivers of, frankly, my life's journey. And we try to implore that with our young people as they're developing these life skills: the hard skills, the what you know, and the soft skills, who you know.
And the idea, and again, this is something we've talked about many times because I just think it's so incredibly important and powerful and something we can all do. It's just the idea of showing up for someone. Who shows up for you when you need someone to be there? And I think you even just said recently you showed up for someone, and it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I think showing up does matter. I mean, I remember those moments when, when the spotlight is on and who is in the audience really matters. But then sometimes some of us have a darkness when we know who is not there. And so, there may be that empty seat, that space that you're aware is missing. And it's even more pronounced when the spotlight is not on, when you're not getting the big praise, you didn't make the big team or what have you, and who shows up in those moments really is powerful as well. And I think this is why, as an organization, we value as much as we can to show up. We have it as a really important thing of our organization for eighth grade moving up ceremony and in high school moving up ceremony, that we've been so blessed that a parent or guardian says, we trust you in our child's journey,
Yeah.
to sign them up and have you as an organization introduce a stranger into their lives. So when they have these life moments, we want not only the big to be present in these ceremonies, but also as an organization, I try to show up myself in these
Yeah.
eighth grade and high school moments, and even when it's, one moment comes to mind. Bayonne High School this year was on a particularly hot day, and it was in the football stadium, so outside. And I was suited up because I had a business meeting right before, and so I was layered and with a tie, and it was in the summer day. It was humid. It was great. We were dripping, right? And then we're on the stage, on in the stands, and the young people are on the stage, and we were there, and I got to wave, and we were in a sea of, it seemed like 1,000 people, um, but the family knew we were there. And was it the most engaging moment? Did we get to talk to the graduate for a very long time? No, but they knew we were there. They registered who was
Yeah.
there, and I wouldn't have changed it. Maybe if I would have been able to have some air conditioning there, it would have been a little bit better. But I think those moments are just precious,
Yeah.
and decades from now, I know. I mean, I'll still draw upon that moment, and I
Yeah.
know they might too.
Those are the moments of life. I could talk to you about this for a million
Yeah.
hours, but we're going to do something a little fun.
Okay.
We're going to end all of these conversations with three big little questions. So we're going to do a little
Oh,
rapid
the rapid
fire.
fire.
Rapid
Rapid
fire. You
fire. Let's
ready?
do it.
You
Let's
ready?
do it.
All right. First, how do you
Okay.
get yourself out of a bad mood?
Ooh, I struggle with that. I'm not gonna lie. I sometimes I'm so. You ever see Charlie Brown, and then they like Charlie Brown kicks rocks
Yeah.
sometimes, just kind of like. So I try to laugh at myself by struggle. So I the way I get is surround myself with people who are better
Yes.
at levity. I get
Oh,
really serious sometimes, and
yes, me too.
that's so I need people around me to help me get out of that.
Perfect. What is your go-to karaoke song? You don't have to
Man,
perform it. You just have to tell me what it is.
so I like Sweet Caroline.
Okay, that's a good one.
It gets the crowd going.
That's
It's
a good one. Yep.
engaging, and
Yep.
and then it allows it not to just be about, because then you could kind of get the crowd. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh, right. So
I
so
said you didn't
good,
have to. I
so
said you didn't
good,
have to
so
perform it.
good.
Okay. And then, what's one of your favorite spots in New Jersey?
uh, Favorite spots in New Jersey. I love the waterfront in
Yeah.
Hudson County.
Oh yeah.
uh, for two reasons. The water is beautiful. I've never been a water person, but I'm recently now, especially during the pandemic and coming out of it, so embracive of water.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. It's ever changing.
It's peaceful.
Uh, it's peaceful, and then because we have the best views of in the world on our side of the river, and so during the pandemic, I ended up walking up and down the waterfront a
Oh,
fair
that's a
amount,
nice walk.
and so that's one of my favorite things to do, and one of my favorite spots.
Oh, I love that too. I can't
Jersey
thank you
strong,
enough.
Jersey
Jersey
strong.
strong. Jersey strong. That's right. I can't thank you enough for being with me today and having this conversation. I just adore you so much. I love all the work that you do, and just thank you for doing you.
Oh, thanks, Ivy. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on your platform. This is
Thank
great.
you so much. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. And that's it for Big Little Stories. We'll see you next time.